Thank you, Representative Cerisi, for your leadership in holding this hearing. This is extremely important. After my son was murdered in the Parkland school shooting, I put my life on hold to make sure that this never happens again. And I just would like to share a couple of slides with you as I go through this. Whenever I speak around the country, I want to make sure that everybody looks at my little boy. That's the most important thing to me. This is some of my favorite pictures of Alex as I remember him. I love looking at it. I get to see his smile and his dimples, and we miss Alex every day. Alex was only in 9th grade. He was 14 years old. He was a talented musician. Alex was in the Marjory, Stoneman, Douglas Eagle Regiment Marching Band, and he played the trombone in the concert band and the baritone in the marching band. He was also a great athlete. Alex played on the Parkland Rec basketball team. And when I sent Alex to school that day, Valentine's Day, 4 years ago, I thought he would come home to me like he has every other day. Unfortunately, Alex was murdered in his English class, Valentine's 4 years ago. After this happened, nothing else seemed to matter in my life. The only thing I wanted to do is make sure this never happened again. So I was appointed to be on the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Commission. I traveled around the country, and many school districts didn't have best practices. So I thought what we needed to do as a country was create a federal school safety clearinghouse. And it's now existing. It exists inside the Department of Homeland Security. And I encourage all members to talk to their school districts and recommend that every administrator go to schoolsafety.gov. They can find all this best school safety, best practices, resources, and grant dollars. And this is a whole of government approach, so you can find grants from every agency on schoolsafety.gov. I think this is one of the most significant steps that came out of the Parkland school shooting is the Federal School Safety Clearinghouse. I recommend everybody to check it out, schoolsafety.gov. Some of my most gratifying work since the tragedy has been in our charity. My wife and I started Safe Schools for Alex. And like Tony, we've been to D.C. probably dozens of times by now, met with hundreds of congressmen, senators, and presidents. I am also a member of the National Sheriff's Association School Safety and Security Committee, along with the International Association of Chiefs of Police. And I also, along with Tony, we both worked with the U.S. Secret Service and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to see what we could do and advocate for school safety. After a lot of these tragedies, the governor of each state forms a commission to investigate the shooting, and that's what we did in Florida. We formed the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Commission. I wanted to be on that commission because I wanted to find out what happened to Alex, and I wanted to hold those individuals accountable. And so I'm on the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Commission. This is the statewide agency and commission that has been investigating the Parkland school shooting. We were responsible for investigating all the interactions between the Parkland murderer and the school board, all the interactions between the Parkland murderer and law enforcement. We were responsible for coming up with recommendations statewide to make schools safer, and we have produced multiple reports that have resulted in multiple school safety bills that have been signed into law by the governor. And today, I can say that schools are much safer than where they were prior to our tragedy. After the shooting, I have 3 other children. I wanted to make sure nothing happened to them. And so I said, where can I go to look at what's happening inside my kid's classroom? Because the Parkland murderer had accumulated over 55 different disciplinary incidents. Law enforcement was at his house over 40 times. He had all of the red flags of a future school mass murderer. He was suicidal. He was homicidal. He killed and mutilated animals. And then when he turned 18, his mother bought him a gun. But I never got a call from my school district telling me what was happening in my kids' classrooms. So I wanted to see for myself. And when I went to go look at the data on the Florida Department of Education website, I was confronted with an Excel spreadsheet with millions of cells of data. I said, how am I going to look up my kid's school and understand what's happening inside their classroom? How can I advocate? Where can I get the information so I can talk intelligently with my principal and school board member? So we created, Safe Schools for Alex created the first school safety dashboard for parents and school board members and for you, for legislators, to give you information so that you know what's happening inside the classrooms and inside the schools, to help you allocate resources effectively so we're not wasting precious dollars. So we created this dashboard. It's a user-friendly dashboard so that all stakeholders, parents, for the first time can go online and look at what's happening inside their school. We've done it in 5 states now. I'd like to go over with you what you're doing in Pennsylvania. This is the Pennsylvania, your website. It was built a long time ago. And so if you want to look in Pennsylvania to see what's happening inside your schools, if parents want to see what's happening inside their schools, they go to the Pennsylvania Department of Education website. It's called PIMS. And it's a list of folders you got to click on. So you got to click on this first folder on the right, school safety, historic. Then it opens up another folder. Then you got to click on the year. Then you got to click on another folder. It opens a list of, alphabetically. Let's say you want to look at the North Penn School District. Then you got to click on another folder. And you finally get to the school. You click on that, and you've got a PDF of the school. Now, very, very difficult to navigate. The average parent's not going to be able to use this. They don't make it easy at all. And then you've got this PDF of one school. But how do I know what these numbers are? How do I know if the numbers are good, high or low or good or bad? Very, very difficult if you're only looking at one school at a time. You have 500 school districts here. So that's why we created this dashboard, and we created a Pennsylvania dashboard, and I'd like to go over it with you right now. So our dashboard is the first time that parents, schools, legislators, and law enforcement have a user-friendly tool that details the incidents of violence and drugs inside each of Florida's public schools, Pennsylvania's public schools. We're in 5 states. And our hope is that by analyzing the incidents of physical attack, drug use, bullying, sexual assault, weapons possession, and suspensions, we're hoping that this tool will assist stakeholders in their efforts to reduce violence, reduce suspensions, and create a positive culture and climate in schools. That's the purpose of our dashboard. We're also in Virginia. We just launched Virginia. So prior to the shooting, what I found out was, I didn't know about this previously, but what I found out afterwards was this is what Marjory Stoneman Douglas reported to the State Department of Education. I had no idea. So this is what, now keep in mind, Marjory Stoneman Douglas is an extremely large campus. There's 3,000 kids there. This is what they reported for the 3 consecutive years prior to the shooting. 0 bullying, 0 physical attack, 0 sexual assault, battery, threat, and intimidation. 0s across the board, not for 1 year, but for 3 consecutive years. And when I look at the Pennsylvania data, when I look at what your school districts are reporting, it seems very, very similar to what Marjory Stoneman Douglas reported prior to our tragedy. What happened in Marjory Stoneman Douglas was a lot of complacency. They never thought it was going to happen in Parkland, never thought it was going to happen, certainly at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, a beautiful area. But I guarantee you, they didn't think it was going to happen in Sandy Hook, and they didn't think it was going to happen in Oxford, Michigan, several months ago. And when our investigators interviewed the principal at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, and we asked him, if there's a threat to shoot up your school, do you expect to know about it? You know what his answer was? No. When we asked him, how many threats were there against your school? He said, I'm not really sure. He was completely disinterested and uninvolved in the threat assessment process. And this is that sense of complacency. If you're shoving and not accurately reporting your numbers and shoving stuff under the rug, you got a bad culture on your campus. Teachers know that even if they do report, nothing's going to happen. Kids know if they report, nothing's going to happen. And we can't have a safe school if you have a negative culture and climate. So when we look at the data that's being reported by your school districts, let's take a look at it. Okay, so this is straight from what the school districts are reporting to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And what it shows is that 80% of the school districts in Pennsylvania reported 0 incidents of academic dishonesty. 0 incidents of academic dishonesty, including 12 of the 20 largest school districts in the state for the 2019-2020 school year. You've got the largest school district in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, 122,000 students, 0 incidents of academic dishonesty they reported. Also Central Bucks, Reading, Allentown, Bethlehem. 17 of the 20 largest school districts in Pennsylvania reported less than 5 incidents of academic dishonesty. You see up at the top there, Philadelphia reported 0. Pittsburgh reported 3 incidents of academic dishonesty in the entire school year between 2019-2020. Central Bucks, Reading, Allentown, Bethlehem. Here's another interesting slide from the data that the schools are reporting on disorderly conduct. Almost half of the Pennsylvania school districts reported 0 incidents of disorderly conduct. 246 of your school districts reported 0 incidents of academic dishonesty. 146 school districts reported between 1 and 4, and 107 of them reported more than 5. 5 of the top 20 school districts reported less than 5 incidents of disorderly conduct. Cyber harassment, we know, is a big issue right now, plaguing our children. They are in a mental health crisis coming out of COVID. We're seeing a lot of distress, a lot of cutting, a lot of self-harm, a lot of depression. 73% of Pennsylvania school districts reported 0 incidents of cyber harassment in the 2019-2020 school year. Gateway School District reported 21 at the most. So only 136 districts reported 1 or more incidents, and statewide, the incident rate was less than 1 incident per 100 students. Here's bullying. Very, very prevalent in our society and kids, and a big problem. This leads to a tremendous amount of problems after a child is bullied. And this is a precursor we see in many of the school mass murderers. We see they're sometimes bullied. This leads to a lot of negative consequences. We really need to do what we can to prevent bullying, to educate teachers on bullying awareness. And what we're showing is that what the school districts of Pennsylvania are reporting is that 53% of them reported 0 bullying in the 2019-2020 school district. The following 8 districts are in the top 20 in the state. They reported 1 or 0. So 266 school districts reported 0 bullying the entire school year. Central Dauphin reported 0. Westchester, Hazleton, Council Rock, Lancaster reported 1. Parkland, Cumberland Valley, and Shamsburg area reported 0 bullying incidents for the entire school year.
I don't want to cut you off. I'll give you about 2 more minutes. I want to get to the next panelist. There's a lot, and then questions. So.
Okay, yes, sir. Also, when I look at the Safe to Say data, I've got that. I've cross-referenced the Safe to Say data with the data that the school districts are reporting. The reason we created this is to help you surge resources, help school districts. So here you've got a list of the top 10 schools that are reporting the highest drug incidents and possessions, fighting incidents. So the reason we created this dashboard is really for school districts and for you to know where to surge resources into schools to help them most. And we also look at discipline data. So you've got discipline data that shows that, for instance, Reading Senior High School reported the highest numbers of out-of-school suspensions. They reported 1,474 out-of-school suspensions last year. The dark green is the top 10 in the state. So we created this dashboard for parents, for school boards, for legislators to use to know where to surge resources and to help kids the most.